plants are green. Boo. This is because they contain a green substance called chlorophyll that captures energy from sunlight. This energy is used to change water and carbon dioxide into a type of sugar called glucose, which the plant uses for food. This process of turning light energy into chemical energy in the form of sugars is called photosynthesis, and it's not only essential for the survival of plants, but also for all life on Earth, since it is the source of the oxygen we breathe. But how does photosynthesis actually work? Let's find out. All living things need food to survive. Animals eat plants or other animals to obtain the energy they need to live. Plants, however, can make their own food. As you may have already guessed, this plant food is made during photosynthesis. In order to carry out photosynthesis, plants require 3 ingredients: water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight. Plants absorb water through their roots, take in carbon dioxide through tiny holes on their leaves called stomata, and capture sunlight with their green pigment, chlorophyll. When these 3 ingredients come together in the right amount, the plant produces glucose and releases oxygen as a byproduct. This glucose is the plant's food, which it uses for growth and repair, and also for cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is the process by which cells break down glucose to release energy. So essentially, the plant uses photosynthesis to make food, and then uses cellular respiration to use that food. The overall reaction of photosynthesis is represented by the following equation: 6 carbon dioxide plus 6 water plus light energy yields C6H12O, 6 plus 6 oxygen. Here, C6H12O6 represents glucose. Note that this is a balanced equation where the number of atoms of each element is the same on both sides of the equation. Now, like any recipe, there are multiple steps involved in making the plant food. The entire process of photosynthesis can be divided into 2 stages: the light-dependent reactions and the light-independent reactions, also known as the Calvin cycle. In the light-dependent reactions, light energy is captured by chlorophyll and water is split. This releases electrons, protons, and oxygen. The light-dependent reactions occur in the thylakoids, which are located in the chloroplasts found in plant cells. You can think of the thylakoid membranes as being similar to a collection of solar panels. Chlorophyll, which resides in the thylakoids, is a pigment that can absorb light energy. Different pigments absorb different colors of light. The main role of chlorophyll is to absorb red and blue light while reflecting green light. This is why plants appear green to us. Once light energy is absorbed by chlorophyll, it excites an electron to a higher energy level. Excited electrons are unstable and will quickly attempt to return to a lower energy level. As the electron drops in energy, light is emitted. This emitted light is what we see as fluorescence. Have you ever noticed how plants appear to glow in the dark after being exposed to light for some time? This is an example of chlorophyll fluorescence. If the excited electron doesn't lose energy by emitting light, the electron will transfer its energy to another molecule. In the case of photosynthesis, the electron energy is transferred to a molecule called photosystem II. Photosystem II contains a reaction center, which is a special chlorophyll molecule that can accept the high-energy electron. The next step involves photosystem I. The electron from photosystem II is transferred to photosystem I via an electron transport chain. Along the way, the electron loses some of its energy, which is used to pump protons across the thylakoid membrane from the stroma to the lumen, which is the space inside the thylakoid. This creates a proton gradient with more protons inside the thylakoid space than outside. Protons naturally want to move from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. So protons will flow back across the thylakoid membrane through a protein complex called ATP synthase. This movement of protons powers the formation of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. This is called photophosphorylation. At the same time, the electron in photosystem I is energized by light, and the now energized electron is transferred to NADP+ to form NADPH. So, to recap, the light-dependent reactions generate ATP and NADPH, which are energy currency molecules, and oxygen is released as a byproduct. Now, let's talk about the light-independent reactions, also known as the Calvin cycle. The light-independent reactions don't require light, but do require the products from the light-dependent reactions, namely ATP and NADPH. These reactions take place in the stroma of the chloroplast, and they use carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and the energy from ATP and NADPH to synthesize glucose. Here's a closer look at the Calvin cycle. It's important to remember that the Calvin cycle is a cycle, meaning that at the end of the cycle, the reactants are regenerated so that the cycle can continue. The first step of the Calvin cycle is called carbon fixation. During this phase, carbon dioxide is incorporated into an organic molecule called ribulose bisphosphate, or RUBP. The enzyme that catalyzes this reaction is called ribisco, which is the most abundant protein on Earth. After carbon dioxide is fixed into an organic molecule, the resulting 6-carbon compound is unstable and quickly breaks down into 2 3-carbon molecules called 3-phosphoglycerate, or 3-PG. The 3-PG is then converted into glycerol dihyde, 3-phosphate, or G3P, which is a sugar. Some of the G3P exits the Calvin cycle to form glucose, while the rest is used to regenerate rub so that the cycle can continue. The regeneration of rub uses ATP, which is converted to ADP, the ATP and NADPH from the light-dependent reactions. Supply the energy to convert the 3-PG to G3P and to regenerate rub. So, to summarize the Calvin cycle, carbon dioxide is fixed, reduced, and then released as a sugar. Interestingly, the enzyme ribisco is not very efficient. It has a very slow turnover rate and sometimes fixes oxygen instead of carbon dioxide, which reduces the efficiency of photosynthesis. This inefficiency is one reason why plants must perform photosynthesis in the light. If there is insufficient light, then there won't be enough energy to drive the Calvin cycle. Another reason is that light is required to generate the ATP and NADPH needed for the Calvin cycle. If a plant is exposed to darkness for too long, it will eventually run out of ATP and NADPH. Without sufficient ATP and NADPH, the Calvin cycle cannot proceed and the plant will not be able to make food. This is why plants that are grown in the shade often appear pale and sickly, since they are not receiving enough light to carry out photosynthesis effectively. In addition to light and carbon dioxide, plants also need an adequate supply of water to carry out photosynthesis. If there isn't enough water, the plant will close its stomata to prevent water loss. This, however, also prevents the uptake of carbon dioxide, which is needed for photosynthesis. As a result, plants that don't have access to sufficient water will exhibit signs of stress and may eventually die. It's clear that photosynthesis is an incredibly intricate process involving many steps. One might wonder if all of this complexity was necessary. After all, photosynthesis is just a means of making plant food. Well, yes, it is plant food. But consider what happens to the oxygen released during photosynthesis. Oxygen is not only good for the plant, but also for us humans and other organisms that breathe oxygen. We would not be able to exist without the oxygen released during photosynthesis. In other words, photosynthesis sustains life on Earth. Some organisms, such as plants, algae, and some bacteria, carry out photosynthesis. Together, they are responsible for producing over 200 billion tons of carbohydrates each year. If all of humanity consumed this amount of sugar, we would be able to sustain ourselves for over 40 million years. Of course, we don't eat plants directly, but rather obtain our energy by eating animals that eat plants. Photosynthesis is also responsible for creating the oxygen we breathe. Every year, photosynthetic organisms release about 160 billion cubic meters of oxygen. Photosynthetic organisms are the foundation of almost all life on Earth. They are the primary producers in food chains and webs, and are responsible for providing us with oxygen and removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. In conclusion, photosynthesis is a remarkable process that converts light energy into chemical energy in the form of sugars. It occurs in two stages: the light-dependent reactions and the light-independent reactions. In the light-dependent reactions, light energy is captured and used to split water, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. The light-independent reactions use the products from the light-dependent reactions to fix carbon dioxide and synthesize sugars. Photosynthesis is essential for plant survival and also provides us with oxygen and food. Without photosynthesis, life as we know it would not be possible. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. You can also check out our website for more educational content.